So my aunt owned a clothing boutique since she was young. She had studied fashion design in college and chose to open a boutique under her own name instead of working for a big designer. My grandfather had financed her store initially, which allowed her to hire seamstresses to execute her designs. When her store started doing well, she paid back my grandfather with interest. My aunt lived just a block away from us, and since she didn't have any kids of her own, she used to love having me and my brother over whenever we were free. Once my brother joined the football team, it was just me who used to go over and hang out with her after school. I loved watching her design new clothes, and she would always let me help in choosing the fabric and the color for her designs. As I got older, I started getting more and more interested in actually designing clothing myself, so my aunt helped me design a dress for myself and had it sewn for me. She said that I had an affinity for fashion design and that she would let me work as an apprentice for her if I wanted to pursue a career in that field. I loved art in school and had come to realize that designing clothing was a growing passion of mine, so I took her up on her offer. The part of the reason why was also because I knew that having a professional experience like that would help in building a better portfolio and make for more attractive college applications. It was a lot of fun designing clothes and being creative. I also helped in bringing in new business to the store since all of my friends at school asked me to design the style of clothes that they wanted to buy and wear. The store made enough money off my designs, so my aunt even started paying me a pretty sizable salary, which was an added bonus. One of my favorite memories was working with my aunt on designing my prom dress. I designed dresses for some of my friends on my own, but I wanted to make my dress with my aunt since she was the sole reason why I even had the opportunity to design clothes at all. We designed a beautiful wine-colored floor-length A-line gown. It turned out to be better than I imagined, and I loved getting to work with my aunt to make it happen. After high school, I was able to attend college from home and keep working at the store as I got accepted into my first choice university, the Rhode Island School of Design, studying fashion design. Unfortunately, soon after I started college, my aunt fell sick. She found out that she had skin cancer and didn't have a lot of time left. I offered to miss a semester to help her out around the house and take over running the store, but she insisted that I complete my education to make sure that I had all of the tools I needed to become a great fashion designer. I tried to be around as much as I could between my dad, my brother, and I. We made sure that someone was always around in case she needed us. Despite all the available treatment methods, my aunt ended up passing away a year and a half after her diagnosis. It was a very hard time for all of us, but it was also the time when I learned how to step up and learn to take up responsibilities like an adult, since my aunt's will stated that she had left the ownership of her store to me. I was very flattered that she trusted me with the responsibility, and so I knew that I had to make sure that I didn't let her down. Since I was in college, I decided to delegate some of the responsibilities until I finished my degree and could take over for myself. Since I practically lived at my aunt's store, I knew all the employees and seamstresses, and it allowed for a seamless transition. I appointed one of the store's most experienced employees as the manager till I completed my degree. After I graduated, I was able to take over running the store. One of my friends from college also joined us as a designer since my time would be split between designing new clothes and actually handling all the business needs of the store. Fortunately, the store has actually been doing really well, and we were able to expand to a men's section as well as a kids section. The plot next to the store was rented by a bookstore, but when they shut down, I was able to rent that land and expand the store. I hired new employees and promoted some of our old staff to new roles as a section manager. I did hire our first male employee to manage the men's section. Everything has been running without a hitch recently, which is why I was completely taken by surprise when this incident took place. It was Saturday evening, and I had left most of the staff to go early so that they could enjoy their weekend. It was only me and 2 other employees in the store. It was cold out, so we weren't expecting many customers and had started getting ready to close up when a woman walked in. She started looking around as if she owned the place. She was opening up all the clothes we had just folded and leaving everything in disarray. She was also picking things up from one place and dropping it in another when she saw something else. Ordinarily, this wouldn't upset me so much, but the store had been very busy. and I was looking forward to getting in my bed, so her behavior really pissed me off. Especially because she showed no care to the fact that someone was running around behind her to put the clothes she was scattering in their correct place. I decided not to get into it until I saw that she was holding one of our ribbed dresses up to herself in the mirror and stretching it out over her body. Dresses made in the ribbed fashion shouldn't be stretched like that because they ended up losing their shape. So I picked up a larger size of the dress and took it over to her. I told her that the size she was holding was too small, and that if she stretched it out even more, then she would have to pay for it because I wouldn't be able to sell it if the shape was ruined. The woman got very upset and started shouting at me. She said that I was body shaming her and calling her fat. I tried to explain that I was just trying to make sure she had the correct size, but she put the smaller dress in her shopping basket and told me to mind my own business. She carried on messing up the store and putting things in the basket without trying them on. I went over to the employee that was manning the payment counter and told her to remind the woman of our exchange policy when she came to pay. The woman was taking her sweet time despite the fact that it was closing time, but I didn't want to argue with her again, so I just let her carry on. Her shopping basket was practically overflowing at that point, and I didn't want to lose the large sale either. After she was done, she came to the billing counter and told the salesgirl to pack up her stuff quickly because she had to be somewhere. The employee did billing as fast as possible and packed the woman's stuff in the shopping bags and told her the payable amount. The woman just laughed and told her to hand the bags over so that she could be on her way. The employee told her that she had to pay the billing amount first, but the woman started saying that she must be new here because she obviously didn't know that it was her son's store, so she could take anything for free. I was shocked to hear this, so I intervened and asked her what the hell she was talking about. She told me to be respectful when I talked to her because she could get me fired in seconds. I asked her why she thought her son owned the store, and she told me that her son managed the whole store and so everything in the store was practically hers. I asked her son's name, and it turns out that her son is the manager of the men's section. I tried to tell her that her son was a section manager and definitely didn't own the store, but she just laughed and said that I was obviously jealous that I was just a salesgirl and couldn't take clothes for free. I decided to play along and told her to call her son to the store to sort everything out, and she was very happy to do so. When her son arrived, I expected him to be embarrassed and correct his mother about the mistake, but instead, he said that he didn't understand what the problem was with the whole situation when explained to him. I asked him why he thought that he or any of his family could just take clothes for free when I made it very clear at a staff meeting that sales girls would get a 20% discount on all items and all the section managers would get a 30% discount. He scoffed and said that those discounts were obviously for all the lower employees, not the people like us who actually ran the store. I told him that I myself didn't take clothes for free because it was bad for business. I asked him just how many clothes he had given away for free. It turns out that usually his mom and sister would come in when he was working and he would ring them up, remove the security sensors, and let them leave without paying. I told him that he was fired and that I would be reporting him and his family to the police for theft. He said that he would just argue that it was obviously just a misunderstanding on what he was allowed to do as an employee. I took great pleasure in reminding him that he had signed an employee contract which stated the amount of discount he would be given and that he would be held liable in case of any kind of theft. I asked one of the other employees to call the police. Both mother and son tried to protest, but I told them to either calculate the exact total cost of the items they had stolen and I would be willing to let them go with just paying the amount back. If they didn't, then I would take the matter to court where I would definitely win, especially since this whole conversation had been recorded on the store's security cameras. They decided to pay all the money back, which turned out to be way larger than I expected. I am so glad that I happened to be in the store that day she came in, and that her son wasn't there, or who knows how much money would have been stolen. When I was in the Army, my unit had a training day one day where we did tactical movements and close-quarter combat with paintball guns. It was pretty fun, except it was in Texas in the middle of summer in a training area full of tall grass that I ended up crawling around in a lot. I didn't notice any problems until a couple of hours later when I was getting ready to head home and my legs started burning. I pulled my boots off, and I rolled my pants up, and my feet and legs up to my mid-thigh were swollen and covered in hundreds of angry red welts. Apparently, I had crawled through a nest of chiggers, tiny biting bugs common in America that are apparently called trombiculidae, officially. And they'd gone to town on my legs, bad enough to provoke an allergic reaction. I drive myself to the emergency room at the base of the hospital, and while I'm waiting to be seen, and feeling more and more terrible but needing to focus on something else, I started counting the bites. I stopped when I got to 100, and that was just on the inside of my right calf. The doc had never seen anything like it, and I ended up getting a massive dose of steroids, antibiotics, and anti-inflammatories, all hospital grade and with serious side effects of their own, as well as 4 days of quarters, the military equivalent of being told to stay home and don't come into work. My girlfriend came and picked me up from the hospital and drove me home because at that point I was in no state to drive myself between the allergic reaction and the meds that I was on to treat it. On the way home, I call my sergeant to let him know about my situation so he can get word up the chain of command. About an hour after that, I get a call from the first sergeant, the senior-most NCO in that unit, herself. Now, she was one of the most incompetent first sergeant I ever worked for during my time in the Army. Constantly making terrible decisions, mindlessly greenlighting whatever terrible decisions our equally incompetent captain came up with, and micromanaging people unnecessarily. She told me that my quarters had been revoked by the captain and that I had to come in the following day. I tell her that I'm holding orders in my hand from a doctor who's also a lieutenant colonel that I'm supposed to take time off to recover. She responds with, "You can't get quarters from bug bites," and rants at me that I'm just malingering and trying to get out of work. There was no way I could possibly be seriously ill from just bug bites. I tried to explain that I had an allergic reaction, but she wasn't having it, insisting that I was a liar and a bad soldier because of it. I was to be at formation the next morning at 0900. Because of the extensive exercise we all got at the training event, they canceled PT for the day. My supposed quarters slip, and they would decide then if we were going to punish me more for trying to pull this stunt. Cue malicious compliance. Okay, I wore my PT uniform, a t-shirt and shorts, rather than our fatigues the next day, and had my girlfriend drive me in. I was still too messed up from the bites and meds to drive. I figured if I was going to get in trouble anyways, being in the wrong uniform would be the last of my worries. But my bare legs instead showed off the literal hundreds of now angry red, almost purple or black in some cases, huge welts on my leg. The skin was more welt than not by the next morning. And I walked up showing off that rather horrific sight to my entire company of more than just 100 enlisted NCOs and officers. Literally, everyone who sees me is like, "Jesus Christ, Quester SA. What the hell happened to your legs?" It's clear to every single person in this company that I'm actually legitimately having an allergic reaction just by sight alone. The first sergeant hears people making a ruckus, sees me, and turns bright red, knowing she effed up when she hears me answering warrant officers, including my direct supervisor, asking, "Why are you here if you're that sick?" First sergeant made me come in and told me that you can't get quarters because of bug bites. Within 10 minutes, I've handed in a copy of my quarter slip, got a quiet and very private apology from the first sergeant, and was sent home for the next 4 days. My mother and stepfather got married more than 10 years ago, and the stepfamily has been really crappy to me since day one. Why? They're all into various types of sports ball, and I'm into all kinds of music. I've stopped trying to be a part of whatever they do because they've actively kept me out of their plans, and I'm just sick of trying. My stepfather occasionally buys me stuff to keep the uneasy peace, but he just never frickin' listens. I went from scrawny to skinny over the past few years, which means I went from wearing a size medium shirt to extra large for the last 4 years. I've told him this. My mom's told him this. But again, listening is an issue. So he always buys shirts that are way too small for me, and I never wear them. A few years back, he got me a few t-shirts for Christmas, all a size too small. A few months later, my mom mentioned that my stepfather's unhappy with the fact that I don't wear what he bought me. I told her that they're too small. She doesn't believe it, so I maliciously complied. Stepfather's birthday comes around, and we're all going out to dinner to celebrate. All the immediate family will be there, so guess what I'm wearing to dinner? As soon as I walked into the restaurant, I knew I'd struck a home run. Not a word was said about my appearance during the dinner, but on the way out, my mom approached me and said, "You don't have to wear those shirts again. They don't look good on you." Who'd have guessed? Here's the ongoing part. Stepfather took a tour abroad a few weeks back and brought back some souvenirs. Surprise, surprise, I got t-shirts, and they're 2 sizes too small this time. Guess what I'm wearing to our next family get-together? Update. Christmas presents came a bit early this year, and all the clothes are my size. Christmas miracles do happen. Be sure to insist on taking some photos with stepdad whilst wearing one of those t-shirts and post that on social media, tagging him and your mother and graciously thanking him for the crop top that he bought you.